So, should the Portmore become Jamaica's 15th parish or not? What do you think? Thanks so much for joining me. I'm Dion Jax Miller. Time for tea. So the governing Jamaica Labour Party has used its majority in Parliament to pass a bill in the lower House of Representatives so far that would see Portmore becoming Jamaica's 15th parish. The opposition, PNP, opposes this. I actually am pretty neutral about this idea of making Portmore a parish. I don't think that's a real issue. Two of the real issues for me rather are process, the way in which this is done, and also the very specific issue of direct election of mayor. Because right now what we have is that the opposition is saying, okay, you pass this in the lower house against our wishes. If we get back into Parliament, we're just going to roll it back. We're going to make sure that Portmore is not a parish. We're going to go back to the way things were. And this really is no way to govern, especially with something as important as this, right? There needs to be another way to find some kind of solution to this one. The other thing is, I haven't seen yet put forward in any serious way the idea of, okay, how about Portmore being a parish but keeping direct election of mayor? And I think that should actually be something that would be really interesting to talk about, and it might also be something that could lead to some kind of resolution between PNP and JLP as well as the community members. First, let's remember a little bit about the history of how Portmore came to be a municipality, right? So the website says that it was created by an Act of Parliament on June 19, 2003. So that's just over 20 years ago, about 22 years ago, right? And they said that was a culmination of 9 years of agitation by citizens who had petitioned the government. And they're not kidding, trust me, there was meeting after meeting, there was town hall after town hall, there were radio programs, TV programs, articles in the newspaper. I know because I facilitated some of those discussions, and a lot of the agitation and the lobbying. In fact, one of the leaders was the late George Lee. He later went on to run for the PNP and become the first mayor of Portmore. But I have to tell you, I have never experienced or interviewed citizen representatives who were as determined, as focused, as informed as those citizen representatives from Portmore during those lobbying years. Them did serious. It was also a big thing. It's the only people in Jamaica who were able to vote directly for their mayor, right? And that's something the rest of us don't have. All of the rest of us across Jamaica, we can't vote for our mayor. What happens is that whoever wins, whichever party wins, their councillors get to elect the mayor, get to decide who is the mayor based on whoever is the leader of the winning side in the municipal corporations. That's what they call them now. They used to be parish councils. Would you want to be able to vote directly for your mayor? Because I would, right? And I think everybody should be able to vote directly for the mayor. But this bill making Portmore a parish revokes the charter that was granted to the municipality of Portmore, and that would include the provision for the direct election of a mayor. So the whole Portmore thing, I would say it was a bit of an experiment in democracy, right? It did lead to deepening of democracy, but yes, the whole municipality thing was new for us. So yes, it was a bit of an experiment. And in those situations, you are going to find that some things work, some things maybe don't work, some things kind of work. And what you're supposed to do, I would think, is to figure out how to make things better, how to make the things that don't work better, and how to make the overall experiment succeed. So what we seem to be doing instead is saying, okay, that's not working. Let's turn Portmore into a parish instead. And I know the argument is that, okay, this is not going backwards. This is actually an advance because you're now talking about an entire parish. The problem with it is that it's not being community-led in the way that the creation of the municipality was. And that's especially important, I think, given the years of advocacy of the citizens to get to that particular point. Now, there was a joint select committee of Parliament which looked at this issue and which provided a report, and they recommended that Portmore should become a parish. One of the things the report talks about is the number of meetings they had. So they invited written submissions first, and a group of government entities made submissions, some individuals as well, hardly any community groups. Then they said that the committee held 14 meetings and that 2 of those took the form of virtual town hall meetings to directly engage members of the public. So this was during the pandemic, right? They said they had 2 meetings, virtual meetings, to get feedback from the public. You couldn't meet in person at the time. But honestly, this is such a big issue. It's such an important issue. It has national implications as well. There's no way 2 virtual meetings would be able to really gauge the community's reaction on this, as well as really educate people on exactly what it is you're talking about. Sorry, don't say that. The report also makes interesting reading because to me it reads very defensively. You know, it seems to be written backwards. In other words, the decision was already taken. We're going to make Portmore a parish, and then the report is written to justify that. That's how it reads to me. And I'll give you one example. Talk about the issue of a hospital, for instance, a public hospital. Residents of Portmore have been complaining for years that there's no public hospital in Portmore. And critics of the move to create Portmore as a parish have been saying, how you going to name Portmore a parish and there's no hospital? So first of all, the report starts out by saying there are no specific legislative requirements as to what features an area has to have to become a parish. Then it looks at some of the different criticisms people have made. So for instance, that issue of the hospital. And the report says that each parish has a type of hospital, whether type C, type B, or type A, but that Portmore doesn't have a hospital. But they said the committee was told that even though there isn't a hospital in Portmore, based on the close proximity of the Spanish Town Hospital, Kingston Public Hospital, University Hospital of the West Indies, no resident of Portmore has to travel for more than 10 miles to access healthcare at a hospital, and that also they have 3 health centers in Portmore, Greater Portmore, Waterford, and Christian Penn Health Centers. In other words, no hospital, no problem. And the report pretty much goes on like that. That's how it deals with all of the issues that are raised by critics. The thrust of the report is that whatever Portmore doesn't have, it doesn't need to be a parish. Now, the PNP members on that committee, by the way, hadn't signed the report. They submitted a minority report in which they put forward their objections. All right, so why make Portmore a parish at all? When you look at the bill, the memorandum of objects at the back of the bill, which is what explains why it is you need to do this, it says this represents a historic milestone. It will be the first time a parish is being established in post-colonial Jamaica, and that making Portmore a parish will strengthen its lobbying capacity, empower citizens to more independently chart the course of development rather than being subject to decisions made for the parish of St. Catherine, of which the Portmore municipality is a part, and will also facilitate the opportunity to autonomously manage any allocated resources. I have to tell you, I'm not entirely convinced by this. Again, a lot of that was supposed to be what the municipality was supposed to do. And as I said, I haven't seen any effort to try to figure out how to solve the difficulties that are being described between the Portmore municipality and the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. I just haven't seen any attempts to fix that before going this route. Now we're in election season, so everything now has taken on a whole different color, or perhaps I should say colors, green and orange colors. Both the JLP and the PNP accusing each other of having political motives in the particular positions they're taking. The PNP is saying the government is gerrymandering boundaries, meaning changing up the constituency boundaries to give itself a political advantage. Now we have an Electoral Commission of Jamaica, and the law gives the Electoral Commission of Jamaica the job to review the number of constituencies and boundaries we have in Jamaica and make recommendations. Government has been saying no, this is not gerrymandering. For instance, government MP Alando Terrelong says only the PNP talking about gerrymandering, and he repeated what the government has been saying, that making Portmore a parish will correct the anomaly of Portmore councillors having to sit in the St. Catherine Parish Council and only getting paid if they go to those meetings. So as I said, I can see things like that can cause problems, but where has been the attempt to try to solve those problems? Now, as recently as 2023 and 2024, the government and Prime Minister Holness were talking about making Negril a municipality. I don't see how you can be describing these problems that you know say Portmore has. And yet, just a few months ago, you were talking about making Negril a municipality. I just don't see that. That doesn't add up to me. Having said that, if the PNP really believes that what they're seeing is gerrymandering taking place, meaning the adjustment of boundaries, if they really think the government is doing something unlawful there, then stop chat and go court, Ask the court to rule on this issue. They said they're going to go to court. Well, then do it, because I don't know what these protests are accomplishing. We all know, said they're not going to stop the government from passing the bill. It's been passed in the lower house. It's going to be passed in the Senate. None of these protests can stop that. So stop chat and go do something. You're the opposition. You're the parliamentary opposition. You don't need to be standing around with placards. All right, go do something. All right, so I have to leave it there, folks. As always, like the video, share it with somebody you think might be interested, and subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. All of that helps us grow. I'm Dion. Thank you so much for watching. On back to my tea.